Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to some more Kull reviews. I was going to do one of the second part of the Atlantis discussion, but all my potential discussers, co-hosts are away on vacation. We'll see if we can get that one knocked out after Thanksgiving. No promises, and if not, we'll just have to carry it over into December. The Skull of Silence is a very, very short story, kind of more. I gotta ask what Robert E. Howard was smoking when he wrote this one. It's a very short story that can be probably summed up in just a couple of sentences, but I'm not going to do that to you. Kull, once again, too, tells Kull of some crazy thing. There's a strange skull-shaped citadel, castle keep up on a hill on the outskirts of where he's at. And so Kull, of course, gets it in his head that he's going to go check it out. And he brings, I forget the slave's name again, Cthulhu's? Yeah, Cthulhu's. I know, I don't make these names up. Cthulhu's is, the really powerful, really wise sorcerer, but he's also a slave. I don't know how that happens. Can't be that powerful if... Anyways... They go to the citadel shaped like a skull, and there's some engravings on the doorway that Kull, wants to know what they say, and of course they're a warning: don't open the door, blah blah blah. But there's a strange gong by the door as well, which is kind of cool because when Kull looks at it, he kind of can see like looking at something magical, like a doorway to some other place, but it's not. And so Kull, smashes through the doorway, breaks the seal because, no one's going to tell him what to do, what not to do. And of course, there's a horrible, terrible thing inside the building, but it's silence, as if silence could take a form. And the closer it gets to him and his men, the more they fall down and not quite die, but they can't do anything. Of course, Kull can resist anything, so he's still standing. And it's sort of a battle of wills, but then Kull realizes the riddle of the inscription on the door and starts banging the gong, and with every bang of the gong, it drives silence deeper back into the building. And more test of wills, and Kull just keeps banging on the gong, driving it further and further back until it gets to the very last corner, and then he hits it again, and the creature disappears, kinda, and Kull, dashes back out of the building, and they close the door and reseal it with his signet ring, and just kind of another, I'm not going to say a dumb story, because it was really well written, it was very interesting, but it was more like an Elric story, if that makes any sense. It was just so psychedelic, or at least trying to be, before that was really a thing, unless he was munching on some peyote out in, the Texas, Badlands or something. And it was just, it needed more, and mind you, all of these appear to be mostly fragments from Robert E. Howard's work, and then taken by Lynn Carter to try to make something of it. But it was an amusing tale. The next one was much better, but it still had some issues. That one was the Riders Beyond the Sunrise. I forgot to mention the Skull of Silence was originally called the Screaming Skull of Silence, but that doesn't make any sense, so I'm glad they changed it to the Skull of Silence. But the Riders Beyond the Sunrise was a little bit more fun. two once again is running his mouth, trying to advise the king about things, and it turns out this noble woman with an actual sort of kind of claim to the topaz throne. I think that's what it was called, that Kull sat on. And unfortunately, she had run off with a scoundrel, and that just, was not civilized. She wanted to marry this guy, and two said it's just not allowed because someday they'll come back and want to claim the throne. And I think somewhere two tells a guard to come in and pretend, or maybe it's a real thing, because I read different things in doing some research on the story, and basically this scout or what have you comes into the throne room and tells Kull that the what was the guy's name? Sorry, folks. Fenar the Farsunian. Yeah, that was kind of weak as well. It's not as bad as the girl's name, which was Lala Lala-Ah. Yeah, it seems like Howard's got as much difficulty with names as I do. He either gets like a really good one or utter crap. And yeah, I'm the same way. And the scout comes back and says that they, the Baroness or whatever, and her lover will threaten to come back someday, calling him a whole bunch of names, scoundrel, and that they're going, when they come back, they're going to make him a slave and dress him in women's clothes and make him clean Fenar's chariot, a task more worthy of his Kull's stature. So of course Kull gets all riled up, gets the boys together. Let's take the Red Slayers and traipse all over the kingdoms and track him down, which they go all over the place. Mind you, it's only like a 20 or 30 page story, but Robert E. Howard style. They go to like 3 or 4 of the 7 kingdoms, eventually chasing him and tracking him down, being tricked along the way, and eventually basically to the equivalent of the river Styx, where only Kull can go across the river with the Charon guy with a different name, across the river Styx, and there Fenara is just waiting for him, like just waiting for him with the girl, after all this time, just waiting for him. And then of course the girl fades away because she's an illusion, and Fenar is, you guessed it, none other than Thulsa Doom. I'm just like, you gotta be freaking kidding me again with this crap. We now know it wasn't Conan that inspired He-Man. It was Kull. Kull was He-Man, and I never watched any He-Man as a kid. I did watch the Dolph Lundgren movie, but I'm getting off topic. So they duke it out, sword versus sword. Yeah, Thulsa Doom is going to resort to a sword fight with Kull. What? A lightning bolt, magic missile, fireball, something. No, but he does have a magic sword that every time his sword strikes Kull's sword, it drains a little bit of Kull's strength. Okay. Then I forgot to mention there's a new character added. This I think Lemurian named Kelkor, who's a really tough badass. He comes back into the across the river swimming. I guess he swam across the river Styx in his full plate armor. Yes, full plate armor. To come up and tell Kull that he needs to disarm Thulsa Doom. Literally, chop his sword hand off, or to, get the sword from him and use the sword against Thulsa Doom, which of course Kull does, and then proceeds to stab him, and it looks like he kills him, but I'm not buying it because it's just, as you can see from my bookmark, I'm about halfway through the book. There's this big old chunk, and knowing Lynn Carter, as I'm starting to learn, he probably would have picked up, several opportunities along the way. As a matter of fact, let's go through the table of contents. By this axe I rule is the next chapter or story on page 138. The striking of the gong is the next story. Swords of the Purple Kingdom, Wizard and Warrior, the Mirrors of Tuzan Thun, and King and the Oak, which was not actually written by Howard, but apparently by August Derleth, which, strangely enough, a huge number of these stories were copywritten by August Derleth long after Howard died, from the pulp magazines and what have you. But I'm starting to think that there's more Lynn Carter than Robert E. Howard responsible for almost everything we know about Kull, or at least we think we know about Kull. But good news, I am going to be receiving the equivalent of the Savage Sword of Conan magazines, but all of the Kull stories, and hopefully they'll have some other stories in, because I grabbed the omnibus for my omnibus of the month, and it'll be here tomorrow or the next day, and I can start checking out that, because I'm pretty certain that most of my fondest memories of Kull actually are derived from Marvel's Kull comic books and the stories from the magazines, because these are kind of dog water. Sorry to say, Robert, but you got ripped off. Your buddies or your proteges or your biggest fans were the worst thing that happened to some of your work, because some of these stories are just awful. My eyes hurt from reading them. But that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know your opinions, because I believe it or not, I'm still a huge fan of Kull. The first story, The Shadow Kingdom, was one of my favorite Savage sword and sorcery tales, and seeing as how it's the very first one, I would hate to think that it peaked there and just went down the crap hole from there. But we know it didn't, because we have all that Conan that we've gone through in the past couple of months together. But again, comment section. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I believe Nerdy Ogre's game is live on YouTube, but if not, I will come back and tell you about it, because it was really fun last week, and I assume it's going to be really fun this week. Well, it's actually been 2 weeks, hasn't it? But that's what I've got for you, folks. Have a great rest of your day. Love you, and as always, happy trails.